Remember, when it comes to staff meetings, I say this a lot, whatever can be in an email, keep as an email. The conversations that you want to be having with your staff need to be actual dialogue conversations, not updates or new things that you're introducing. Those could be email memos, right? Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, a place for insightful conversations about building sustainable schools of excellence. Join me each week as we explore the importance of leading with your values, creating impact, and leaving a lasting legacy. My goal on the show is to provide you with clarity, elevate your mindset, and equip you with practical strategies and inspiration. I'm Chani Wolshansky, a proud mother of four, a former New Yorker, now savoring sunny Florida vibes. With a professional journey spanning 18 years across all levels of school leadership, I bring nuanced insight that delve into the intricate details of running a center, as well as the broader visionary aspects of leadership. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. Let's build a legacy of excellence together. Hello there, and welcome back to the Schools of Excellence podcast. This is our second episode in our series of wrapping out the academic school year. And today's conversation is how to lead that last staff meeting of the school year. So I want to kick off by, in a training that I have inside of our membership and our directors in our circle, our owners HQ, I have an entire course on how to lead the first staff meeting of the year. And we've done a couple of episodes actually, which we'll link here in the show notes as well, on how to lead that first staff meeting. And I break down the first staff meeting into 3 sections, because sometimes when we try to mesh all of these different ideas together, it really doesn't work. And it actually almost creates this like minus factor where we're trying to do all of this great stuff for the staff, but they're on information overload. So with this last staff meeting of the year, it's a very similar concept, right? There's a lot of things that we want to do with our staff. There's a lot of reminders that we want to give the teachers. There's all these different things that we want to do, but each thing is really separate conversations that we need to have with our leadership team, our admin team, our staff. And so today's conversation is really about guiding you through some things to really think about in the final staff meetings of the year. So I've broken it down into 3 sections, and you can choose to do all of these meetings. You could choose to do one, you can mix and match. The goal of this episode is to really give you perspective and help you break out of the usual mold of how you typically plan your last staff meetings. Remember, when it comes to staff meetings, I say this a lot, whatever can be in an email, keep as an email. The conversations that you want to be having with your staff need to be actual dialogue conversations, not updates or new things that you're introducing. Those could be email memos, right? And another thing to really keep in mind when you're doing these final staff meetings, if you're changing something and you've already made up your mind about what you're actually going to be doing, don't be manipulative and say, oh, I want to get their buy-in. Let me ask their opinion, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work. Clear is kind, as Brene Brown says. Be clear, be kind. If you want their opinion on something and you actually want to turn that into a staff meeting, then you really have to listen to what they have to say. If you already made up your mind and you're not going to change it based on any of their input, don't ask them. It feels really icky to be asked for opinions on things over and over again when they know that you really don't want their opinion and you're really not going to do anything. It's really a dishonoring to the word collaboration and what it means to collaborate and work together as a team. So there's moments where, yes, you want to get their input, then collaborate and work together. And there are certain decisions that you make as a leader it's not a collaborative process, right? Oftentimes Mayor and I will sit together. We'll be, having a conversation or doing something. The kids are around. And then, my older kids, I have 2 teenagers now, they'll start like chiming in. And I'm like, this is not a conversation that you were invited to. You were not invited to this conversation. Your opinion is not part of this conversation. Mommy and daddy will be making this decision on our own. And we will inform you of what we decided. And then there are certain decisions that we want you to be a part of. And we invite you into those conversations, and you will get an invitation and you will be told where to be and what time to show up to that meeting. And so there's a lot of times where, as a leader, you make decisions that impact the team, but you don't ask for their opinion, because not every single thing do you need to ask the team's opinion for. But there are certain things that are a collaborative process. Know the discernment. Know your motive when you're trying to be manipulative and just try to get their buy-in and placate people versus when you actually want their opinion. Okay, so let's dive into the different kinds of meetings. So the first meeting is about embracing innovation and learning from frustrations. So to give you context again, I have a handout that goes with this training. It's called Reflective Questions to Ask Your Teachers at the End of the School Year. The link is in the show notes. You could click and get access to that. It's a dozen or so questions that you can give your staff ahead of this meeting, in middle of the cycle of, the end of the school year vibes and meetings. And the questions are really reflective in nature and really, really help your staff think and dig deep into their performance and their quality and their relationships that they had this year. So the first meeting of bringing everyone together is about embracing innovation and learning from frustration, right? So you kick off the meeting and really reminding everyone the importance of reflective practices. When you're in the daily grind of working with the kids, you're not being that reflective, right? You're kind of just getting all the kids' coats on, changing the diapers, wiping the noses, teaching the curriculum, getting the projects out, making sure everyone's alive and well. Like, you're not being very reflective in the day-to-day, nor should you be. You got to, keep 18 little 2-year-olds alive. So when you're bringing the staff together for reflection, you really want to emphasize, again, the importance of reflective practices, and really helping your staff understand that there is so much value in learning from successes and from failures and from frustrations. So one of the first activities that I like to do at kind of this staff meeting is reflective sharing. So one of the ideas you could do is we begin with each teacher sharing one innovative approach that they tried in their classrooms this year, something new that they did that they've never done before, something that was innovative or different or creative. And the teacher can share the impact that it had on students, on the environment, whatever it is. And then you can kind of open up the floor for a brief discussion on learning that came from that specific new innovative approach. Now, this doesn't need to be a round robin where every single teacher has to share an innovative idea that they brought into the classroom. This could be you preparing in advance and, tapping on the shoulder on 3 or 4 different teachers and say, hey, I know that you implemented this, great innovative and creative idea. I would love for you to take 2 minutes at this staff meeting where the focus is about embracing innovation and learning from frustration. And I would like you to please share this innovative idea. And then you can choose 2 or 3 teachers and say, hey, I know that you guys had these specific frustrations during this year, and you guys learned so much from it, and all of this great stuff came from it. Can you please share the experience? And so you prepare in advance, creating and curating who you want to be sharing. It gives opportunity for people who don't usually share to actually prepare in advance and feel more comfortable sharing. A lot of people will be happy to share if they get an invitation, meaning they don't like to be put on the spot of like, hey, can you share blah, blah, blah. I don't mind being put on the spot. I, speak as part of my job. I love public speaking. I enjoy getting up in front of the crowd. The stage excites me. And so a lot of people are the polar opposite of that. And so getting tapped on the shoulder in advance and being told, hey, we're having a staff meeting in a month. This is what we're going to be doing. I'd really love if you could do X, Y, and Z. Please think about it. They'll be happy to share. You'll be surprised how many people will be happy to share. So that's what I like to start off with, just a reflective sharing conversation. And so, again, the goal of this meeting is helping everyone come together on all the innovative ideas that you guys have implemented throughout the year and the challenges and frustrations that they can learn from. Now, this is also a really great time where you as the leader can reflect on the innovative things that you implemented from a leadership level and any frustrations that you embarked on this year and new changes that you're going to be bringing as a result of that. So the meeting is short. It's specific, it's contained, it has a beginning, middle, and end. It has an agenda. This is what the goal of this conversation is about. It's about reflecting on innovation and the frustrations and challenges and what we are learning. That's it. That's the whole meeting. Now, again, I know sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves of this like last staff meeting and what are we going to talk about and what are we going to do and what are we going to serve and what's the theme and what's the decor and what's the, menu and blah, blah, blah. Break it down. Do 2 or 3 different meetings. And then you can combine a meeting together with like a celebration, right? Where you can have, this is going to be the experience that we're going to do to say goodbye. That's very different than a meeting, right? There's a meeting, there's experiences, there's reflective time, there's journaling time. Like these things are all different stuff. There's updates. So if you want to do an experience with your staff, which I think is a phenomenal idea, you all know that I love experiences and creating experiences for staff. That's something that you can weave into where it fits in appropriately. So think about your core group of staff and think about, okay, I want to create experience that creates bonding or creates collaboration or honors our theme that we had this year. Or, we went through some really hard stuff. Or one year we had a client who they lost 2 teachers to COVID that year. And so at the end of the year, they did a beautiful celebration that was part memorial, really honoring those teachers. And also just brought everyone together. All the staff really navigated intense grief that year. And so the celebration was really honoring that. And so the theme and the color vibes and the food and the music and the lighting and everything that, she did was all surrounding around that. So the thing I want you to think about when you start to prep for the end of the year is try not to get caught up in the logistics and the design before you actually create the intentions of what you want to be discussing at each meeting or what you want to be doing at this experience. Always set that intention first, and then you can have the fun with all like the food and, all of the extra stuff that you want to do. So that's the first meeting I would recommend. Again, embracing innovation and learning from frustration. Second conversation is about navigating challenges and breaking autopilot. Okay. So breaking autopilot, I think, is such a meaningful conversation to have with staff, especially your veteran staff. But even your young staff, like learning how to come together to understand what is our routines, where are we in a rut, what are our autopilot responses that we have when we are creating our daily schedules, when we're creating our routines, when we're creating our transitions, the way we communicate, our communication cadences with parents, between colleagues. And so, breaking autopilot is one of the activities is this time travel. And so you reflect on, what would you change if you could go back in time, right? And you take the time to really share some insights and strategies on like, okay, this is what we always do. Like, this has kind of been our autopilot. This is what we've always done. And, if we take time to think for a second, hey, can we do it a little differently? I always like in the time travel exercise to mix and match age groups. So you'll have, let's say, toddlers sit with the preschoolers, or the threes group sit with like the 18-month-old group. And they each share some of their routines or their autopilots, and then they reflect. And so what's really beautiful is that a lot of times teachers will typically stay within their age groups. And there's a lot of value in that. And it's great to collaborate with teachers, who are teaching the same age. But there's so much beauty in breaking that autopilot and actually having reflection conversations with teachers in different age groups, because you can learn a lot from them and their routines and rituals and what they do. So in this time travel exercise, it's breaking the autopilot, because again, so many times at the end of the school year, directors or owners will say things like, gosh, I really hope this is different next year. I really hope this teacher, changes this or doesn't do this or whatever it is. Bring them into this dialogue, bring them into this exercise where they can actually break their autopilot and choose different routines and rituals. And again, some of these reflective questions are in the reflective question PDF, which again is in the show notes. It's linked inside of there. And so you could check that out and give that to your staff as a tool to prep for this meeting or, to do at the actual meeting. So that's the second meeting, navigating challenges, breaking autopilot. The final meeting is classroom environment, collaboration, and future aspirations. So this is where I really love to take the time to discuss the impact of physical space on teaching and learning. And this is where, just if you have the time for this, where teachers can create vision boards of their ideal classroom setups, where they can really learn to sit together and discuss the connection between the physical environment of the classroom with their teaching effectiveness of the children, and how the classroom really becomes the third teacher, if you will. And so there's a lot of just encouragement on, okay, this is your current physical space. How would it look different if you wanted to set it up a little differently? And when we take the time to do that in a reflection at the end of the school year, it really helps teachers kind of step out a little bit, because when they're in the day-to-day grind, they're like, this is the routine. I don't want to, switch around furniture. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Their brains can't think about things in a different way. But at the end of the year, when they're doing some reflection and you're kind of, doing these culmination staff meetings, it's a really great time to get teachers to sit together and look at their physical space and maybe create this vision board of like, hey, if I could redesign the space, like I would move some of this stuff around, or I would build this over there. I would do this over there. Like, there's so much value in that type of back and forth dialogue. Another part of the conversation is the cherished memories. And, I did this many, many years ago when I was a director, and I called it the memory capsule creation. And what that is, each teaching team sat together on their own, and we created a memory capsule with personal reflections of that year. So we really discussed like the significance of these different positive experiences that we had with children, with families, with each other, and all these great positive memories. And then we created this memory capsule. So similar to like a snow globe. So we kind of, basically it was a snow globe, but it was with like these memories. So inside of the snow globe, when we were creating it, either we chose like specific words that we wanted to remember from the year, or we cut out different pictures and we put that inside of the snow globe. And it was this memory capsule. And we created this piece of art together, which I love creating something physical with the staff. I just think, again, like we did this at our live event last year. We created jewelry, and when you're creating and building something tangible, there's so much that goes into there's a lot of memory that's created when you're building something physically, and then that stayed inside of the classroom. And what's really beautiful about that is you get to look at that and remember all the positive experiences and cherished memories of the year before. So in this last staff meeting, again, this could be an experience that you do with the staff in this final staff meeting. I often find leaders are always looking for these different ideas or different things that we could do with the staff in the final staff meeting. A memory capsule is it's such a fun thing to do with the staff. Another great idea to do with staff in the final staff meetings is a gratitude circle. So whether you do this as like the final thing, or you open up with this way where you form a circle, and each teacher or each member of the team shares specific areas where individuals provided support, teamwork, collaboration, help, like where they felt specifically different members of the team supported them throughout the school year. What's so beautiful about that is it lets other teachers know who are the helpers in the school. And it also helps each individual recognize, like, wow, this company really helps each other. Like, people really have each other's backs here. Like, look at all these different examples of people sharing that they did this for me, they did this for me, they did that for me. And it really inspires this feeling of teamwork, of connection, of collaboration that you want people to feel inside of them emotionally at the end of the school year. So as you're kind of listening through this and you're hearing all these different ideas, or, different ways of breaking down, this final staff meeting, here are some of the pointers that I want you to be thinking about. So in thinking through that, I want you to think about some of these questions, right? In what ways did you and your team step out of your comfort zone this year that enhance your teaching practices, right? So again, these are some questions that are in the reflective guide, but these are also just great questions to have as part of your end of the year staff meeting agendas. What support or resources would you find most beneficial as you plan for the upcoming school year? So teachers are right away thinking about the upcoming school year, even those that take a break during the summer. For those of you that are open 12 months a year, they're working through the summer. Teachers are thinking about, what do I want? What do I need? What would I feel? What do I want on my wish list for the upcoming school year? And invite them to think beyond materials and like tangible stuff. Invite them to think around resources, skills, relationships, people, like all of those other elements of resources that are super valuable. And a final note of collaboration when you're thinking of creating experiences or connecting with staff in these final staff meetings is really thinking about how are you supporting your staff in managing their work-life harmony, and what strategies do you want to put in place for helping your staff implement self-care over their summer break, or in general, just over the course of the school year. If you remember, I did a podcast series a while back. We'll link that in the show notes here on the 5 stages to build a culture of retention. And one of those stages is work-life harmony. Staff really want work-life harmony. They want their home and their work life to work harmoniously and seamlessly and integrate with each other. And so when we're reflecting at the end of the school year, some teachers are coming back, some teachers are not, some people are kind of in the balance. They're thinking about that. think about retention. Go back and listen to that series on the 5 stages to build a culture of retention, and think about, in this final staff meeting, how can I ensure that I am doing all of these stages, that I'm building a culture of community and belonging, of work-life harmony, of accountability, of promotion, of contribution, all of those stages. But more specifically, the culture of work-life harmony. What do I need to do, and what can I ask my staff so that in this final staff meeting, we can really get clear on what work-life harmony means for everyone here and what this culture can look like in the new school year. So hopefully this episode gave you a lot of inspiration, a lot of good ideas, but more than anything, just a better framework for how to break down your meetings and how to choose experiences that are most aligned with your company values, and how to bring your school together at this just unique time and unique season of the school year. All right. Thanks so much for listening. If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school and for yourself, I would love if you can do 2 things for me. 1, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And 2, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the podcast to learn about building a school of excellence. And I'd be so grateful if you could do that for us. Your help and support make this show be able to listen to by thousands of other school leaders around the globe. Thanks so much for listening and giving us your time and attention each week.